Hi, this is Michael and Denny of ThunderShamanism.com, so welcome back. So this is going to be part 2 of the video where I talked about what ghosts really are. So if you haven't, go ahead and watch that because I give some important information on what ghosts are and more importantly, how human beings are created, what we truly are on a spiritual level. And now I'm going to talk about how the three selves work together and what their ultimate destiny is. So stay tuned for that. So, as I said, we talked about in the last video that that ghosts are not the souls of departed human beings. They are the lower self of departed human beings. The soul doesn't stay here on earth. The soul, after we die, no matter what happens in life, good, bad, or positive or negative, it goes to either the underworld to be reincarnated or off to, what other realms it has available to it. And we're made up of three selves. We're made up of the divine soul, which is who you are, who I'm talking to right now, this divine soul that lives in your heart. We have a higher self, which lives up here in the third eye, and this is the higher self that guides us, and it gives us information, but it doesn't impose itself on us. And then we have the lower self. The lower self, as we talked about, is a lot like an animal spirit. This is why people, have animal spirits and protector spirits. It's actually connected to their lower self. The lower self is the subconscious, the unconscious mind, all of our emotions, all of our unresolved emotional issues, all of our psychological patterns. It's where we hold our karmic patterns. It's incredibly important. And I talked about how if the three souls are not communicating with each other, then the human being can live in chaos and have very difficult, miserable life. And if that person dies without having resolved the communication between the three selves, then that lower self stays here on earth trying to fulfill all of the obsessions and all of the desires that the human ego was stuck with when they died. This is why, when religions talk about dying to self, it doesn't mean to die to self. We can talk about that. That's a very destructive teaching if not done properly. But if we die to our illusions of our ego, then all three of our souls are clean and happy and they can move on and evolve. So that's what we're going to talk about. What is the destiny of these three selves? So we've talked about how these selves communicate, and I'll go over that again very briefly. The upper self, the higher self, communicates directly with the heavenly realms, with the ascended masters, and with our heavenly influence. It knows what our karma is, it knows what our destiny is, and it's here to guide us. But if we don't listen to it, it won't force itself on us unless, it's absolutely necessary. We may get a vision or a visitation from our higher self. But most of the time it just leaves us alone. The soul is here to learn and to grow, and making mistakes is part of that. And the soul is the one that keeps coming back over and over again to live in human flesh, to learn and to grow. The question is why? And then we get down to the lower self. And the lower self, as I've talked about, is like an animal. It's here to serve you. But if you don't train it well, it will overtake everything and make your life a living hell, just like a dog. If you don't train a dog right, it'll tear up your furniture and poop everywhere and pee on everything. Same thing with a small child. If you don't give that child love and boundaries, it will make your life a living hell and try and take over everything. Same thing with your lower self. It's incredibly powerful. It's like having this huge, giant hulk of a being in your home that wants to serve you, but if you don't pay attention to it, it goes crazy and tears everything apart. So this is what ghosts are. Lives here on planet Earth, roams around until it runs out of steam, which can take hundreds of years, and then it goes back into the earth, and then it has an opportunity to come back as a lower self again. Now, why is that? So let's start with the bottom of the pyramid. The lower self is trying to become a soul. It's trying to evolve. It wants to evolve to become a soul. So it's learning, ideally from you. So if you're an evolved soul, and you have a strong, powerful lower self, it is listening and watching everything that you do. And it follows your command. And if you don't take leadership, then it tries to take over because it wants to become a soul. It wants to climb up and be a soul. But it's not ready for that yet. And that's when it causes all kinds of problems. So that's why it's so important to live a disciplined spiritual life and to be clean and pure in what you do, because your lower self is taking notes because it wants to be like you. And so that's its destiny. Its destiny is to become a soul. Now the soul, you're asking, where do we go from here, right? What happens if we don't get incarnated back as human beings? Well, guess what your soul wants to do? This is why we love giving advice. This is why we love helping people. Because the soul wants to be a higher self. It wants to eventually become an ascended master, or what we call the elves. It wants to make that connection and be there and be one with all of divinity. And so this is the school for this. So we are trying to raise our vibration so that we can be a higher self. And we can come back and having learned, if we get to the point where we pass all of our tests and we learn everything that we're supposed to learn and we get to connect to the higher self, then we have to give it back. So we get to come back as a higher self, and we can take the journey with another soul. Maybe it's a lower self that you had many lifetimes ago, and now that lower self is a soul, and you're there to guide it and to help it. And then eventually the higher self wants to, again, as I said, become an ascended master. You can call it becoming a god. I don't care how you look at it. And so this goes back to the Norse and the tribal Germanic mythology of the spirit world. And this is what our ancestors learned over tens of thousands of years. And this is why it's so important for us to come back to it. Because if we can understand this and incorporate it in our life, not only will it bring us pleasure and happiness, but it'll give us wisdom to grow and to learn and to live the kind of life we want to live. So we've heard of beings called dwarves. Guess what dwarves are? Lower self. Now, dwarves don't always live in human bodies, but they're essentially the same thing. And this is why the dwarves and the elves have such an interesting relationship. And just like, Tolkien was, I don't know that he realized this, but he was channeling information about the connection between the lower self and the upper self when he showed that when dwarves originally are afraid of the elves and are in rebellion to the elves, but once they see them, then they bow down before them, and they're the most amazing beings in the universe. And that's the appropriate relationship. The lower self wants to obey the higher self. And so dwarves want to revere the elves, and they want to help humans. And so dwarves are meant to become human souls. Human souls are meant to become higher selves, eventually to become elves. So this is the progression. It goes from dwarf to human to elf. This is the triune path of consciousness. And here's what's important to understand. All life, all entities seek to evolve. Now, I can't tell you that all entities, I can't tell you if all plants and all animals become humans. I don't know. I don't know the vastness of what is out there in the universe. Human beings are definitely one path, and according to our tradition, human beings, the word man is mind, and it means moon. And what does the moon do? It reflects the soul. And the sun, which also means soul, the sun in our universe is representative of the ultimate divine soul. So humans, man, mind, is the reflection of the pure, true spirit. And that's what we are. And so in that sense, we are ideally the highest evolution of all animals, because we're looking to become divine mind. We're looking to translate ourselves and connect and become connected to the ultimate. So anyway, so this is a very deep subject, obviously, and there's lots of permutations. We can go on and on. So we'll end that for now. Happy Halloween to everybody. Listen, if you like this channel, please subscribe. Please like this video and comment if you have any comments or feelings about it, positive or negative. I don't care. And if you want to support this channel, you can go ahead and should be a little icon here. You can support the channel. Obviously, all the books and DVDs are available to you. And so that's it for now. If you want personal If you want personal mentorship, I offer apprenticeship. I'm running out of space, so you got to hurry up. But there's still some space left for some apprentices. Anyways, that's it for now. Happy Halloween. I'll talk to you soon.